Guess who's coming to dinner? Okay, she's not really coming to dinner. She lives about 3,000 miles away, but still. Welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor, everybody. Well, today I have a guest host, and if you spend any time on YouTube searching watercolors or looking into watercolor demos, you likely run across Angela Fehr. Angela Fehr is an experienced teacher, expert in wet and wet techniques, I think, and just has some great ideas. And we agreed to be on each other's channel this week. Now, as I've said many times, the Mind of Watercolor is about partnering with a medium that seems to have a mind of its own. And if you let it, it can do some cool things for you. Angela's technique today fits into that theme with my channel just perfect. So without any further ado, Angela, take it away.
Hello Steve and everyone on the Mind of Watercolor YouTube channel. My name is Angela Fehr and I'm excited to be collaborating with Steve. We've switched channels today, and so he's going to be posting his favorite technique on my watercolor channel, which is Angela Fehr, and I'm here to post my favorite technique in a little video here on this channel. And watercolor is my favorite medium. I've been painting for 20 years and my favorite techniques change all the time. I've been calling it pigment channeling, but then the other day I saw another artist referring to it as floating your pigment. I think he meant the same thing that I've been doing, so we're going to use that term. And what it is that we want to have those beautiful mixtures of fluid color. Here's an example. We have amazing colors going on here. We've got green, we've got violet, we've got blue, we've got kind of this burgundy shade. And they really mingle beautifully together on the paper. And it's a little bit, to get that technique, we want to use a light touch. We don't want to scrub pigment together till we get a muddy murk where the color is just thoroughly mixed. What we want to do instead is create paths and avenues for that color to travel without disturbing the color around it. So here I've already laid down a sky, and the top of the page is quite wet here, and then down here we've got a dry paper. So I'm going to have some bleeding here as I lay down some color. And I'm using Core Pearl Orange just to get my very first layer of color down. And I found that this technique, you'll get the most dramatic effects with colors that pigment heavily, colors that have those little particles of pigment that you can see when they're dry. And I'm just working on creating, this is going to be a bank of trees, and then this is the shoreline coming down toward the water. So yes, I have orange trees, bear with me. Now let's pick another color. Let's pick some of this helio turquoise, which is actually in our sky. And turquoise and orange are complementary colors, so that means where they mix, they will create kind of a murky mud. But the neat thing is that with watercolor, when we are very gentle, we can dot in a complementary color right beside its complement. And if we don't scrub, they're going to stay separate enough that we have a really beautiful a mingling of color. They're going to be side by side. They're going to mingle slightly to create a bit of a neutral where they mix, and then they're also going to really cause each other to glow and sparkle. And complementary colors do that. They push against each other and create a vibrance that you don't get when you mix them. And then you get that muddy color. I'm going to grab another color. This time I'm going to take some green, and this is Undersea Green from Daniel Smith. And I believe Undersea Green is a mixture of a blue, I think ultramarine, or phthalo, one of the two, I'd have to look it up, and Nicolazo Yellow, which is one of my favorite yellows. And seeing as we're talking about it, let's throw it in too, if I can find it. And Nicolazo Yellow works really well for this technique because it's a very flowing color. You can see as I touch it in how it disperses, and there's a big chunk of it, and that's okay, we'll just shove it over to the side. We're getting some amazing color mixtures here, aren't we? And now I want to tell my pigment where to go, And that's going to be the base of my trees right there. And as you can see, as those colors have flowed downward, they have combined. And so I've got a lot more neutral happening down here than I do up here. And that's totally okay. It works within my purposes. Remember, of course, that water follows the path of least, or pigment follows the path of least resistance. It follows the water. Water follows the path of least resistance. It wants to go where the water already is. It doesn't want to encroach on that dry paper. I was getting a line here where pigment was flowing. I didn't want that. So my trees are looking really interesting at this point. And this is going to be an underlayer for building up my dark shadows in my trees. I'm going to grab a little more of that orange, dot that in here. And you know, paint is little tiny particles of pigment. Even when they're so finely ground that you can't see the particles, you're still getting those little particles that follow the water and mingle with the other colors. So colors never truly mix. You're always getting little particles beside other little particles, and how finely ground they are is going to determine how granular a color appears, for example, and just give you different effects as those colors touch each other and combine. And really dark with the turquoise where it's wanting to take over that orange. So you're just getting different effects all the time. But because I'm using a gentle touch, the pigment really does just kind of float across the surface of the paper, following the water on the page. And then I can tell it where to go by adding water and channeling it down. That is really my favorite technique in watercolor. And as I continue this painting, I'm going to build up those layers. Sometimes what I'll actually even do is channel the pigment that's already on the page over in this area with water. And with a clean damp brush, quite a juicy brush, I can just touch in a few spots, and that water flowing down the page, I've got my board tilted, pushes the color. If you have an area where color is darker than you'd like it to be, you can so gently just move that color with some water, tilting things so that it flows downward, and you can flow it right off the page if you choose to. I can pull that little track of water across dry places on my page, giving the paint new paths to travel on. Do that right here, and it just changes. It's always moving. And as long as things are juicy and shiny, I can keep moving that color across the page. Whether I'm dropping water on the page to push the existing color down, or taking fresh, rich color and placing it on my page, very light touch, watching it flow, guiding it with my brush, and just keeping a really light touch. This is what I love about watercolor. I love sharing it in my classes and on my YouTube videos, and I'm excited to be able to share it with you today. Okay, so I'm back. As you can see, I've gone into my original first layer painting, and I've just continued to layer and add detail. What we have in watercolor is this beautiful glow as you start to layer darker colors over those first washes. And as you can see, I'm not extremely fussy about how this background, this first layer bled out into my sky. There's a little bit of yellow and orange that are just showing through the trees, but it really just adds to kind of that warmness of our trees here. And it's got a beauty all its own. And it doesn't make our sky feel inauthentic or anything like that. So, you know, you can get away with that in watercolor, and that's something I love about it. Really, I think with any painting, you'll be amazed at how the most realistic paintings, when you get in close to them, you can see the individual brush strokes, you can break it down and see how it's actually been simplified from reality. Really, with the whole idea of pigment channeling, you're just working with letting that pigment run and blend on the page to create those magical color transitions, and then using them to make some beautiful harmonies on your page. You know, leaving gaps and spaces to show through some of the best of those areas. I want to show you just one other painting. Here you're getting a sneak peek at one of my in progress works. This is quite a large sheet. You're only seeing a small portion of it, but really I've used that idea of pigment channeling to its full effect here. You can see in here I painted those berries, and then I dropped in some different colors and I let it bleed out and run across the page for this amazing natural flow where the colors are mingling so naturally. It has this really organic look that's just beautiful. Over on this side I've got the same thing. I've used it in a negative painted way to outline the edges of the leaves and just create a beautiful background, and I want to do more of this elsewhere on the page. There's so much more I can do with this painting still. It's a little awkward showing you something that's in progress because I'm seeing this leaf and going, oh, I just want to keep painting and fix that, and I want to improve it so it's more realistic looking. I want this to look more natural over here, and yet what you're seeing here, what's really has the dynamic feel in this painting is those beautiful transitions of different pigments. We've got turquoise, we've got yellow, we've got burgundy, all working together in one area, and it's beautiful. It's got a harmony about it that happens organically. It happens as the paint is flowing across the page. I may be dropping the colors in, but they are, kind of deciding how they're going to work together and really making some beautiful music together. So I encourage you to try just letting those little granules of pigment flow across the page. Use lots of moisture, touch in those little dots of color and see what they do. Not every color is going to harmonize perfectly, but you'd be amazed at some of the magical things that can happen when you're willing to try some unpredictable colors in your washes. Do go ahead and like this video if you want us to do this again, to hijack each other's channels. I've had a lot of fun doing it. Do visit me as well on my website, angelafehr.com, or my learning site, which is learn.angelafehr.com. Thank you, Steve. I've learned a lot from your channel. We watercolor artists are always learning and teaching each other, and it's really fun to collaborate and share ideas. So I hope that you'll have fun with watercolor and enjoy your painting adventures.
Thanks everybody for watching that. I know Angela appreciates you watching that. I've got to get out some paper and play with that technique a little more. Just super way to use wet and wet washes. Keep things juicy and loose. Excellent technique, Angela. Now I hope you'll go over to Angela's channel and check out my video. I'm a guest over there this week also. I'll put a link down there to the video, and I hope you'll enjoy that. So thanks for watching this week, guys, and we will see you next time.